Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 182 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where we learn that Shawn does not use the elf runes.
Nor do I use my right name, nor permit it to be spelt or spoken. Well, folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Shawn Marchese. Oop, guess I just broke my own rule. The real-life Lord of the Mark.
To the dungeons with you.
I know, that didn't last long.
No.
And I'm here with the man of the West, who has no time to ponder riddles.
Ah.
And you wouldn't like it when he does. Alan Sisto.
But I can still guess. So today we're going to be talking about the first half of the departure of Boromir, the first chapter in Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. This is the time when Sean Bean's contract runs out and he leaves the show.
That is correct, sir. There's only room for one Shawn on this show. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And as hopefully you've noticed already, we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're glad you've joined us.
Yeah, and we hope you're going to be glad you've joined us as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, it's time for one of our fan favorites, Philology Fair.
It's been too long since I've done that little jig. All right.
You're not kidding. Yeah.
Well, folks, in this episode, we finally see Aragorn the Ranger finally does some ranger stuff, doesn't he? Now, if you're not sure what I mean, think back to previous episodes when we talked about how Gandalf isn't that kind of wizard. You know, he doesn't have a spell book or a mana bar. He never says, I wish I'd prepared Scorching Ray or anything like that.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? I would pay money
wouldn't
for that.
Though?
I wish I'd prepared Scorching Ray.
What I needed was Fireball. So, Gandalf, not that kind of wizard. Now, we can probably all agree that Aragorn is at least sort of that kind of ranger. I mean, he does wander in the wilderness, and he tracks prey, and he hunts and forages. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, he hasn't done a whole lot of rangery stuff so far.
Fair enough.
Now, that's not surprising. I mean, ranger means something more in Tolkien. Mm-hmm. As Gandalf says, he is the last remnant in the north of the great people, the men of the West.
Yeah. So ranger means Dunedain, but it also does mean that kind of ranger, because Aragorn does occasionally do some of those rangery things we think of when we think of that kind of ranger. And of course, there are those kinds of rangers in the South, too, as we'll see next season.
Someday we will get to Faramir.
Yes, we will.
But yeah, we have heard Aragorn talk previously about his skill as a hunter, and we've seen how he can forage Athelas and heal wounds with it. That's all pretty rangery stuff. But in this chapter, we finally get to see him doing some really epic tracking for the first time. And that, to me, is like the classic ranger thing, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, in honor of Aragorn's first foray into tracking, at least in this book, I thought it'd be worth looking at the history of the word ranger, how Tolkien uses it, and also how it's entered the modern fantasy vernacular, so to speak.
Fair enough.
Now, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, the word ranger appears as early as 1327 in Middle English, meaning someone who ranges.
Not
there
surprisingly.
You go. Segment done, folks.
Yeah, we're all done here now. Go home.
Time to move on.
Yeah, nothing to see here.
So it's meant someone who ranges, but what that really meant was a forester or a gamekeeper. Not too long after that, it started to mean the warden of a forest, kind of similar to the way today we would think of a park ranger.
Okay.
All of these uses come from the verb to range, which means to move or roam across a large area. And that comes to us from French verb ranger, which could mean the same thing, or it could also mean to arrange soldiers in ranks, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
So it also had the sense of arrange as well as just range.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Now, by around 1560, the word ranger had also picked up another meaning, which is really interesting. And this was a meaning something more like a rover or a wanderer, or even a rake, like a drifter, vagabond.
Yeah.
A bum, basically.
Okay.
And this shouldn't surprise us too much, because that's certainly what the people of Bree are thinking of when they say the word ranger, isn't it?
Absolutely. And of course, there's another nuanced meaning of the word that started in colonial America. Somebody who's a member of an organized group of armed men who range over a place to protect it.
That's right. Yeah, like the Texas Rangers.
Right.
Not the baseball team, but the law enforcement agency that Cordell Walker was in.
Wow. First name even. You're a Walker, Texas Ranger. Because Cordell, Texas Ranger didn't have the same ring to it, huh?
It was on the application when I applied to move into the state, so I had to learn it.
I bet you did. Well, that old Western idea fits well with this idea of the rangers roaming around Eriador and the Shire, protecting those lands without the locals even realizing it. Of course, we know from reading Shippey's Road to Middle-earth, as well as John Garth's new book, The Worlds of J.R.R. Tolkien, that Tolkien was a bigger fan of stories of the Old West in his childhood than we might otherwise believe.
Yeah.
Shippey talks about Tolkien being influenced by the American author James Fenimore Cooper. And Garth has talked before, even with us on the show, about Tolkien's having been influenced by the American poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
Right.
And of course, Tolkien himself mentions this on fairy stories, not James Fenimore Cooper, but Longfellow, when he says, "Treasure Island left me cool. Red Indians," that's Tolkien's terminology at the time, it's not ours. He used the terms of his time, "were better. There were bows and arrows." Tolkien says, "I had and have a wholly unsatisfied desire to shoot well with a bow."
You're not alone, Professor.
Don't we all?
Yeah, seriously.
And strange languages and glimpses of an archaic mode of life, and above all, forests in such stories.
Yeah. So there's quite a few different meanings of the word ranger, and I think it's quite possible that Tolkien was thinking of all of them and combining them all in a little bit of wordplay. I mean, look at Strider. Here he is, a ranger who is all of those things at once. He's a wanderer, a little bit of a drifter to the people of Bree and to the hobbits at first, but he's secretly an armed member of an elite group of warriors. I don't know if he can do the roundhouse kicks that Walker Texas Ranger can do.
I was wondering.
He's a fighter.
Yeah.
He's protecting the area, and he's very comfortable in the forest and the plains, and he can move over a wide area quickly. He can range with those long shanks of his.
But can he do it at night? Can he be a night ranger? Don't tell me you love me. Don't tell me you love me.
Man, nicely done. I'm surprised that was the Night Ranger song you went with.
Well, I think that was their first one, but otherwise it was going to be Sister Christian.
That's the one.
That's
the one I was thinking of. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to sing it so I wouldn't have to.
I don't remember how the tune goes, but when you close your eyes, do you dream about me? That was another one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that I can remember too many more of those. Not really my genre at the time. That was sort of more of a pop rock than a actual rock. That was more 38 Special than Def Leppard, if you know what I mean. Is that fair? Is that fair to say?
I don't know. I seem to remember liking 38 Special, but I was young. I was impressionable.
I did like 38 Special. They were a little more like Southern rock, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's true. They were more like Loverboy than Def Leppard. Night Ranger.
That's fair.
I felt. They were in that. Which makes sense because I think they were Canadian too, eh?
Probably.
I know Loverboy was. I don't remember if Night Ranger was, but I think
Loverboy was definitely Canadian.
Loverboy was. No, Night Ranger I think was San Francisco. They were local, local group. Yeah, my bad.
Night Ranger was.
Yeah. Anyway,
but we digress. One of my favorite bands of all time is Canadian, so let's not just.
Oh yeah, I know. No, that's true. I mean, Rush.
Okay.
I mean, right. Of course, I'm not going to bash the Great White North ever.
No, of course.
No, Canada's awesome. Up with Rush, you get free passes for life, man. You can turn out all the lover boys you want.
Canada can do whatever it wants musically from now on because they created Rush.
You've got Rush. That's good. You're good. So, anyway. Didn't take long this season, did it? All right.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
So next season, we're going to see Faramir's Rangers, not Night Rangers, doing all those same things as well. So it seems that Tolkien was the first person to bring all of these concepts of the word ranger into a single idea.
Well, that's what it seems like. I mean, if there's another fantasy author who came before him who did that, I haven't found it. And it certainly seems like Tolkien's Rangers were the origin of the concept in a lot of fantasy games and books today. I mean, much like Tolkien's everything was the origin of similar concepts in fantasy games.
Have you played a halfling?
Right, exactly.
A halfling thief? I don't know who he was modeled
a halfling thief with an invisibility ring. I actually had one once upon a time.
Yes, didn't we all?
Of course, on that note, I've actually been reading a lot of D&D stuff lately because I'm trying to get back into the game. I know you're doing the same.
Oh, man. I've had the books for a while. I just don't have the time, but I want to play so bad.
You know what? Right now, I'm just sitting there reading them and just kind of getting excited about it. And when I have the time, I'll do it. So when I decided to look into Rangers for this episode, I decided to look into when did Rangers first appear in D&D because I just thought this would be a fun thing to touch on. So it actually turns out they appeared in D&D very early on.
Yeah.
Rules for a D&D Ranger class were first published in a newsletter called the Strategic Review in summer 1975. And this was a newsletter that was actually published by TSR, who were the original publishers of D&D. Kind of like a predecessor to Dragon magazine, which was the magazine in my day.
You make it sound like Strategic Review was around in my day. Shawn, I
No,
wasn't
no, that's
6
not
years.
what
I wasn't playing D&D as
that's-
a 6-year-old.
That's not what I meant at all.
Okay,
That's not what I
because
meant
you were
at
like
all.
in my day.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't even know if Dragon Magazine is still around because
Well, it probably an e-format, but
probably, yeah.
I have no idea, but I think it might be. I think I remember seeing something about.
Did you?
Oh, who is it that owns Magic? Because they're the ones who bought
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards of the Coast, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so they might be doing Dragon still, but Strategic Review was the predecessor to that, and the Rangers were hailed in the article that they appeared in as an exciting new Dungeons and Dragons class. But they are as close to an OG class as you can get, because this was 1975. D&D
Wow.
itself had only been published a year before in 1974.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who wrote that article, who apparently invented the class, was a guy named Joe Fisher, who was, from what I understand from reading online, he was apparently somebody in Gary Gygax's gaming group.
Whoa,
So-
man, that's some serious gaming cred right there.
This is pedigree, man. This is
That is serious pedigree, yeah.
And then I guess Gygax liked the idea because when the Player's Handbook of what used to be called AD&D first came out in 1979, it included Rangers. And I know that they were inspired by Tolkien because in both the Strategic Review article and in the first edition Player's Handbook, a second level Ranger is called, would you like to guess?
An Aragorn?
Close.
A Longshanks?
A Strider.
Of course.
A Strider. A second
Of
level
course.
Ranger is called a Strider.
No, that's right. Longshanks is the third level Strider.
I'm sure,
third
yeah.
level Ranger, yeah.
And I have to give a hat tip to friend of the show and D&D expert Jeff LaSala.
I wondered if he'd make an appearance. I had a feeling because he's our resident D&D guy. Yeah,
He is. I bounced some ideas off of him for this, and he shared me some pictures. He's actually got a first edition Player's Handbook, and he showed me a picture of it. He's like, "Yep, there it is. There's the Strider."
beautiful.
So, yeah,
first
that was-
edition Player's Handbook. That is
Yeah.
awesome, man.
That was a lot of fun. So thanks for your help on that one, Jeff.
Man, I'm glad we had a chance to dive into this because it may help us track down something we've been trying to do since last season. Remember in
Ooh.
episode 176 when Boromir was trying to convince Frodo to give him the ring, not very successfully, I might add. We couldn't figure out why he said, "I am a true man, neither thief nor tracker,"
Right?
lumping in thief and tracker in the same category. We knew
Like
why
they're both
thief,
bad things. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I am a true man. I am A, neither B nor C, meaning
Right.
A is opposite from B and C, but B and C are the same thing.
Right.
We knew why a thief was a bad thing, but why is a tracker a bad thing? And we talked aloud about maybe he meant bounty hunting and whether bounty hunters may have been looked down upon in the Middle Ages.
I even looked into the etymology of tracker for a postscript, but I couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah, that's right. We had nothing there, but
Yeah.
but a lot, and I mean a lot of our listeners,
Yeah.
this might have been one of the biggest things that we got feedback on, reached out to us to suggest that Boromir is trying to set himself apart from Aragorn. Aragorn is a tracker, Boromir is not, which is a fair point because Boromir isn't exactly Aragorn's biggest fan at that particular moment.
It is a fair point, and I think it's something that I really hadn't thought about. I have to admit, I didn't really feel it answered the fundamental question of why he's saying that to Frodo, though. Because,
yeah.
I mean, obviously Boromir may distrust Aragorn for whatever reasons, most of them round, gold, and forged in a volcano. But Frodo certainly trusts Aragorn, right? So, like, you know, you're trying to convince this guy who is in Aragorn's pocket, and you're saying I'm not like Aragorn. That doesn't seem like a winning argument to me, because maybe Boromir thinks being like Aragorn is a bad thing, but it's certainly not a bad thing to Frodo.
No. But your etymology of ranger may have just teased it out for us. Because if ranger can mean a vagabond or drifter, somebody untrustworthy, then that may be the same way that Boromir means tracker. He's telling Frodo that trackers or rangers, like Aragorn, are essentially untrustworthy, like thieves, and that Frodo should trust Boromir because he's not one.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that actually makes a lot of sense, and I think that probably is what he means. You know, trackers themselves are just kind of looked down on. You know, we started going down these roads of like bounty hunters and stuff like that. I don't think we really needed to go into any of that. A tracker, a ranger, a vagabond, these are all kind of synonyms for one another. And I think that's exactly it. So thank you for encouraging me to dig a little deeper into that. And thank you, listeners, for pointing us to it.
Oh, absolutely. And please, nobody tell Faramir that his brother doesn't trust rangers. That's going to be a problem. It'll break his heart, and he's frankly going to have a rough few weeks ahead of him. So let's move on.
That is true, but not as rough as Boromir is going to have.
No, that's true. Well, actually, Boromir's not going to really notice the next few weeks passing.
That's
or the
true.
next few thousand years, for that matter. But let's
Oh.
go ahead and join Aragorn as he searches the ground for clues about Frodo.
All right.
And I'm going to have you pick up at the very beginning of Book 3.
Aragorn sped on up the hill. Every now and again he bent to the ground. Hobbits go light, and their footprints are not easy even for a ranger to read. But not far from the top a spring crossed the path, and in the wet earth he saw what he was seeking. I read the signs aright, he said to himself. Frodo ran to the hilltop. I wonder what he saw there. But he returned by the same way and went down the hill again. Aragorn hesitated. He desired to go to the high seat himself, hoping to see there something that would guide him in his perplexities. But time was pressing. Suddenly he leaped forward and ran to the summit, across the great flagstones and up the steps. Then, sitting in the high seat, he looked out. But the sun seemed darkened, and the world dim and remote. He turned from the north back again to north, and saw nothing save the distant hills, unless it were that far away he could see again a great bird like an eagle high in the air, descending slowly in wide circles down towards the earth. Even as he gazed, his quick ears caught sounds in the woodlands below, on the west side of the river. He stiffened. There were cries, and among them, to his horror, he could distinguish the harsh voices of orcs. Then suddenly, with a deep-throated call, a great horn blew, and the blasts of it smote the hills and echoed in the hollows, rising in a mighty shout above the roaring of the falls. "The horn of Boromir!" he cried. "He is in need!" He sprang down the steps and away, leaping down the path. "Alas! An ill fate is on me this day, and all that I do goes amiss."
I've had days like that.
I have days like that all the time, man.
I know. All that I do goes amiss. I've even said that.
Except I'm not 87 years old looking like I'm 40.
Well, yeah.
I'm more like 40-something looking like I'm 80.
It's not the years, it's the mileage, right, Shawn?
That's right, man. That's
All
right.
So Aragorn's out there searching for footprints because
Yeah.
Hobbit's tracks are hard even for a ranger. But he finds the evidence he's looking for, right? He finds evidence that Frodo went up and back down the Hill of Sight.
That's right. And he stops. You know, he wants to sit in the high seat himself. He wants to go get some intel.
Yeah.
So he makes the decision to do so, sits and looks out at a dim and remote world.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. That seems to suggest that there's something supernatural about this spot, doesn't it?
Oh, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't just automatic.
This isn't just a vantage point. This is a place of some kind of enchantment.
Yeah. And it surprises me that he's not able to see what Frodo saw.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, he turns from north back again to north, which is, I found that was kind of a strange wording, but basically what Tolkien's saying is he turned 360 degrees.
Right.
And starting from north and then going all the way back around to north. And he saw nothing except for this eagle high up in the air.
Yes. And let's talk about that because, 3 days ago, or in podcast time, about 4 months ago, Legolas saw one while going down the Anduin. And now Aragorn sees this one. Now, we'll learn later on that at least the one that Legolas saw, and likely this one would imagine, was actually Gwaihir the Windlord, sent by Gandalf to watch the river and gather tidings.
Yes. That's super cool. That's well, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's a great bit of interlacing, actually.
We just got ahead of ourselves with a quote, so
yeah,
that's okay.
True. But it's a great bit of interlacing there, which we're going to talk about in about a minute and a half here.
Yes. Oh, we sure will. We sure will, absolutely, at length. Before we move on, though, do you have any speculation? Why? I couldn't find anything on this. Why would Frodo be allowed to see these things? We know it wasn't the ring, because we talked about that at the time, that the ring actually blocked his vision, that it took a while for the seat's power, so to speak.
That's right.
To enable him to see these things, that the mist lifted from his eyes and he could see. Clearly, he was somehow intended to see this, and Aragorn isn't.
Yeah.
Why, I wonder, why is his vision blocked here? Why is he not seeing anything but the dim and remote world?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if I don't know if he's seeing the future somehow, because when I think of the sun being darkened and the world dim and remote, I'm thinking of the dawnless day later on.
Yeah.
But
that's possible.
But that doesn't make sense because he sees the world as it is now.
Right.
So I don't understand why he'd be seeing it through that perspective.
I don't think
what
so.
I mean. So I don't know if it's that. I really don't
Maybe it only works once a day? He needs to come back. He needs to refresh.
Or maybe it's a matter of perspective. Maybe,
mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, because this was made by Gondorians, and so you would think it would work well for Aragorn.
That's the thing. You'd think if anybody would be able to see from here, it would be Aragorn.
You would think it would be Aragorn, kind of like the Palantir or something, you know? I don't know. That is a really good question, but I've got nothing on it.
And there's no answer for it, at least not one that I've found.
No, there's not. But he hears something. That's for sure.
Yes, he does. Might not see much.
That's right. But he hears the harsh voices of orcs down in the woodlands below.
And the horn.
And when I hear that, I'm reminded of the fact that one name for the orcs in Sindarin is the Glamhoth, the noisy horde.
Yeah.
So you know that they make a lot of noise. They're snarling and growling. And
the din horde, right?
Stomping. Yeah, exactly. Noisy and harsh.
And we'll hear about that later, actually, at the end of this chapter in next episode
we
when we talk about the way orcs behave.
Yes, we will. But he hears something else.
Yeah, beyond the sound of the orcs, he hears the sound of the horn of Boromir.
Oh, such a classic moment.
And it smote the hills and echoed in the hollows. I love that.
That's so great.
The deep-throated call. You can just hear it. Oh!
Such a heroic moment. And it's, yeah. Oh, that's a really good horn sound. I like that.
I don't know. There's something.
No, it worked. Such a great heroic moment. And there's a little reference here to medieval literature.
Yeah, there is.
Hammond and Skull point out in The Reader's Companion that Boromir blowing his horn to summon help recalls Count Roland in the circa mid-11th century Chanson de Roland, who, when as rearguard he was waylaid by the Paynim. Now that's a word for the pagans. It's a word used for the Muslims in Roland. It's it's a rather challenging poem to read in lots of ways, but
I imagine it is.
There is some language in that poem that is not exactly current in terms of its sensitivity.
I imagine that's true.
But they say that when he was waylaid by the Paynim, he blew his horn to call Charlemagne to return.
Mm-hmm. And Hammond and Skull also point out that Roland also dies beneath a tree with the broken horn beside him. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Pretty interesting similarities.
And really, if you pick up the Chanson de Roland sometime, read the sections on this. In fact, I might actually pull them out for the postscript to this episode because there's a lot there. That the visual image of Roland's death is very similar to that of Boromir's.
Yeah, absolutely.
So back to this text, Aragorn heads down and he has this observation about his fate, his ill fate.
The ill fate.
And this little bit about everything that I do goes amiss. You know, he's kind of having this doubt. And I know we'll talk about this later on because he says this a couple of times, doesn't he?
He does. He has some similar lines. And then we see only at the very end of the chapter when he's made a firm, clear decision, we sort of see that fade away. But for now, he is really convinced that he can't do anything right.
Yeah.
That he's having a day where I literally got out of the wrong side of the bed and nothing I do. It's like the opposite of the Midas touch.
Yeah. Everything is going wrong. Everything is just turning to stone today.
I cannot make a good decision. Yeah.
This is interesting because although there's not a ton of this isn't like one of those huge free will versus fate questions, but
no,
it is kind of one of those reminders though, isn't it? That, sometimes you just need the confidence to turn it around. And there's where free will comes in, right?
Yeah, a little willpower, a little volition.
Yeah. And I think we'll find as we go through this chapter, we'll see that if Aragorn can just kind of get his groove back a little bit, he'll actually start making the right decisions and he'll actually get himself on the wrong track. And of course he does by the end of the chapter. And it's really all about just sort of finding that confidence again. I mean, look, it's been a rough day.
It has been it's been rough on Aragorn, but it's been a little rougher on Boromir, as we're going to find out.
That is true.
The thing is, when we blame it on an external force like this, and we say an ill fate is on me this day, we're basically saying nothing that I can't really be held responsible for any of these decisions because really I'm going to always make the wrong one. And it's only when he finally decides to make a decision himself.
Exactly. Yeah.
As you talked about, right? Where he's finally faced the choice and he makes that choice, as Rush would say. Right. I mean, that's
right. It's right. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Absolutely right. And here he's deciding right now to play this passive role.
Yeah.
And, I don't even know what I'm going to do because whatever I do is going to be the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy if you're not careful.
It is because you're just throwing up your hands and saying, I give up. And it's no, you can't. You gotta hang in there. And
even in Tolkien's world, that's true because with men,
absolutely,
we have that extra gift, right? I mean, if this was Legolas saying that, we'd have a different discussion about this.
Right.
The music is as fate is to
As
all else.
fate to the elves, yeah.
But not to men. Men have the ability to shape their lives. And
right.
That's what Aragorn needs to remember here, and he will.
And that is one of the big free will versus fate questions, because that's like the Turing question all over again.
It is.
It's once you start getting into that pattern where you just say, you know what, I just have bad luck. Well, no.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Right.
Make your
own luck.
Sound like Thorin, we make our own luck.
That's right.
And I think I criticized that line in the movie, but but I guess there's some truth to it in the sense that you have the ability to make your own decisions.
Absolutely. So now the cries are louder, but the horn is fainter, which is never a good sign. And he comes crashing through the trees with his sword drawn. I love that. And I didn't have you read all the way to the end of the section, but I'll let you at least cry out. Go ahead. Cry out, Shawn.
Elendil! Elendil!
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
But before we get any further into the book, and I'll pick up the passage after this, I want us to take a few minutes to talk about a medieval literary technique that we mentioned briefly a few minutes ago that Tolkien uses here in The Two Towers. We are going to see it often enough that it warrants a brief sidebar here, and more as we see further examples of it. Tom Shippey in The Road to Middle-earth talks about this technique at length, and while we won't and really can't read the whole chapter on this, it's worth pulling a few helpful sections that illustrate the concept. Shawn, you've got one.
Yeah, so Shippey points out that Tolkien uses this technique a bit differently from some of the classic examples of the technique. And I would not know this myself, I got it from Shippey, but some of the classic examples are the Vulgate cycle, which is a French Arthurian prose tale. It's one of the key sources for Thomas Mallory's Le Morte d'Arthur. Mm-hmm. And he also mentions some Italian epics about, well, these guys again, Roland and Charlemagne.
Of course, yeah.
So in some of those classic medieval examples, Shippey says interlacing resulted in meaningless confusion. But Tolkien's pattern is quite different. Shippey says separations and encounters and wanderings, but these are controlled first by a map, something no Arthurian narrative possesses, and second, by an extremely tight chronology of days and dates. Along with this goes a deliberate chronological leapfrogging.
Well, now that sounds familiar to anybody who's read The Two Towers, doesn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
Chronology and leapfrogging. Shippey goes on to explain that the narrative of Fellowship is single-stranded, following Frodo, with the exceptions of the flashback narratives that are embedded in The Shadow of the Past and the Council of Elrond. The Nine Walkers themselves stick together from the leaving of Rivendell to the end of the volume, apart from losing Gandalf and Moria. But on Amon Hen, on the 26th of February, the Fellowship is dispersed. Boromir is killed. Frodo and Sam canoe away by themselves. Pippin and Merry are kidnapped by the Uruk-hai. Aragorn, left to choose between chasing the latter or following the ring, decides to pursue the orcs along with Legolas and Gimli, and the fates of these three parties are then followed separately.
That's right. Now, let's get into the details on some of this for just a bit, and of course we know we're going to be picking this up again later in the season. Shippey continues, briefly, what happens is that chapters 1 and 2 of Book 3 take Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli from the 26th to the 28th of February.
Okay.
Chapters 3 and 4 lead Pippin and Merry from the 26th February to the 2nd of March. Chapters 5 and 7 return to Aragorn and his companions and leapfrog them past Merry and Pippin again to the 4th of March, while in Chapter 8 these two subgroups of the Fellowship meet again on the 5th, for Merry and Pippin to bring their story up to date again in recounted narrative. By Chapter 11 they are splitting up again. Gandalf, who had returned from Moria in Chapter 5, spoilers, riding off with Pippin, Merry setting off with Theoden, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli going together once more towards the paths of the dead. They will not gather again till Chapter 6 of Book 5.
That's right. But this isn't just decorative in effect. It works well for things like surprises and cliffhangers, as we'll see. But more than that, these interlacements prove, this is Shippey's words now, prove the author has the story under control and are significant to any reader who has grasped the entire plot. However, that is not how they appear to the characters. For to the characters, the story appears as a bewilderment. They are lost in the woods and plains of Middle-earth. They also do not know what is going on or what to do next.
And we'll see plenty of that bewilderment from the perspective of several characters, most notably Aragorn, very soon. I mean, we're already seeing some of it with some of that doubt that we were talking about.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that doubt, let's return to Aragorn crashing through the trees. Alan, you want to pick up there?
I think I do. A mile, maybe, from Parthgallen, in a little glade not far from the lake, he found Boromir. He was sitting with his back to a great tree, as if he was resting. But Aragorn saw that he was pierced with many black-feathered arrows. His sword was still in his hand, but it was broken near the hilt. His horn, cloven in two, was at his side. Many orcs lay slain, piled all about him and at his feet. Aragorn knelt beside him. Boromir opened his eyes and strove to speak. At last, slow words came. "I tried to take the ring from Frodo," he said. "I am sorry. I have paid." His glance strayed to his fallen enemies. 20, at least, lay there. "They have gone, the halflings. The orcs have taken them. I think they are not dead. Orcs bound them." He paused, and his eyes closed wearily. After a moment, he spoke again. "Farewell, Aragorn. Go to Minas Tirith and save my people. I have failed." "No," said Aragorn, taking his hand and kissing his brow. "You have conquered. Few have gained such a victory. Be at peace. Minas Tirith shall not fall." Boromir smiled. "Which way did they go? Was Frodo there?" said Aragorn. But Boromir did not speak again. "Alas," said Aragorn, "thus passes the heir of Denethor, Lord of the Tower of Guard. This is a bitter end. Now the company is all in ruin. It is I that have failed. Fain was Gandalf's trust in me. What shall I do now? Boromir has laid it on me to go to Minas Tirith, and my heart desires it, but where are the ring and the bearer? How shall I find them and save the quest from disaster?" Man,
Oh, man.
every time I read that, I hope he'll still live.
Yeah, I know. It's such a great, beautiful moment. And so quick.
It is.
It's over so quickly.
In less than a page, it is done.
Yeah. So, well, all right, let's go back to the beginning and pick it up from there. So Aragorn finds Boromir sitting against the tree, pierced with many arrows. His sword is broken near the hilt. Horn is cloven in two.
Wow.
Dead orcs all around them. 20 at least.
Yeah, 20 at least. I mean, this is a lot of dead orcs. This reminds me a little bit of Hurin, right? Picking up the axe and wielding it dual-handed, and the troll guard of Gothmog. And
and obviously that was like, what, 4 times as many orcs. But that's like
70, right?
That's like the mythic age, right?
Yeah.
This is a little bit more down to earth, and 20 is a
and he might have gotten to 70 had his sword not broken. You know,
he might
you
have.
break your sword. 20 is kind of done.
20 is nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, this is an amazing moment for Boromir.
No. And the troll guard of Gothmog clearly didn't have any bows and arrows.
Right.
If they had,
that's what took him down, isn't it? All these arrows.
Pierced by many, not 3. I mean, the movie admittedly did this scene wonderfully well, but that wasn't how it went down. It wasn't one guy coming up with a crossbow because Lurtz is special. You know, there were probably many archers.
It wasn't a crossbow in the movie. It was a pretty heavy, like,
that's
kind of like a heavy short bow, wasn't it?
Short bow, yeah, you're right. You're right. It wasn't a crossbow. He sort of held it horizontally, didn't he?
He may have. I don't remember.
But you're right. It wasn't an actual crossbow. But elements of this death scene should remind us of some of Tolkien's words from Beowulf, Monsters, and the Critics.
Mm-hmm.
"Let us by all means esteem the old heroes, men caught in the chains of circumstance or of their own character, torn between duties equally sacred, dying with their backs to the wall." Oh, man.
Man, that's pretty much what we see here. I mean,
yeah, it is.
Boromir isn't literally with his back to the wall. He's more surrounded, but he's certainly cornered. Mm-hmm. And I love this idea of torn between duties equally sacred. That's Boromir, isn't it? Because
totally, yeah.
He's torn between his duty to the Fellowship and his duty to Gondor.
To the city. That's right, to Minas Tirith. Yeah, absolutely.
Got another quote here from Beowulf, the Monsters, and the Critics, where Tolkien says, "Men with courage as their stay went forward to that battle with the hostile world and the offspring of the dark, which ends for all, even the kings and champions, in defeat."
Boy, that is a Beowulfian line right there. I mean, defeat is inevitable. Even in kings and champions are going to die.
Absolutely.
But that also means simultaneously that death itself isn't failure.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons I think that Aragorn says that he hasn't failed.
Yeah.
So I know we'll talk about that in just a moment.
Oh, at length. Yeah.
And there's one other little phrase in Beowulf, Monsters and the Critics, where Tolkien says the wages of heroism is death.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of love that because it kind of reminds me of this sort of transactional language Boromir says when he says, I have paid.
Yeah.
The reality is he has done a job, and the wages for that job is death.
Yeah, and he knew that going into it.
And he knew it going in. Yeah, just like Beowulf.
His last words, Boromir, really strike me. How short they are, but how to the point they are. Look at one sentence, one set of sentences, I should say, one phrase. I tried to take the ring from Frodo. I am sorry. I have paid.
Yeah.
Here is confession, apology, and penance, all in just a handful of words.
I think he knows he doesn't have many breaths left, and he has a lot that he wants to get off his chest. You know,
he does know. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, this is his last chance for penance, and I think it's really important that you said that word because that's exactly what we're going to see here. Is that this is a moment of repentance?
Yes, it is absolutely.
But he also gives information, doesn't he? He tells Aragorn what happened to Merry and Pippin, that they've been bound, but he doesn't think they're dead.
Yeah.
And then this is just a very human moment. He takes this moment to say goodbye to Aragorn.
Yeah. Sort of to reconcile, I think, in a way.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Yeah, we've talked about how Boromir was not really Aragorn's number one fan, but he was largely under the influence of the ring. And now that he's had a chance to confess, he's kind of past that. And
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's making peace with Aragorn. And then he asks Aragorn, you know, he doesn't really ask. He says, he kind of directs him.
It's the command of a dying man, right?
Yeah. Go to Minas Tirith and save my people. My people. But I mean, really,
not our
we
people,
know.
My people.
Not our people. And that's another change from the movie. Which, I mean, I like the way it's done in the movie.
I know. I do too. I would have followed you, my captain, my king.
Yes.
Still one of my favorite moments. I know.
Tears every time. I'm not ashamed to admit.
Every time. Somebody's cutting onions. Yeah.
And I love that our people, but it's a bit more subtle here in the book.
It is.
Where he just calls them my people, but we know that this is Aragorn's people too.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. His admission of failure, right? I have failed. But Aragorn rebukes that, says, you didn't fail. You've won. You've conquered.
Yeah.
And you should rest now and be assured, Minas Tirith's not going to fall. We've got this. Oh, what a moment that is.
And that message seems to be received because the last conscious act that Boromir has is a smile. And this is, I actually have chills, dude. That's just talking about it.
Goosebumps going down the arms and back of the neck. Yeah, absolutely.
Boromir smiled. Such a simple 2-word sentence.
He takes Aragorn's words to be at peace.
Yeah.
And he accepts that. And he completely receives the, what would you call that? It's like he's receiving this, not really forgiveness because Aragorn isn't in the position to do that, but
I don't know. I think it is a kind of forgiveness. I think
like a representative forgiveness of some sort, maybe. Yeah.
I think people can forgive.
Yeah.
I think people can forgive one another, and I think he's getting that. And yeah, I think that's exactly what this is. I think so. I think it's forgiveness and grace.
Yes, it's certainly grace. And I want to talk a little bit about that. You're going to have to pardon me as I have a kind of a long little thing to say here. Many of you who have listened to the show for a very long time probably remember over 4 years ago, hard to believe we've even been doing this that long.
Wow, yeah.
I wrote a Prancing Pony Pondering talking about Boromir's redemption. And if it's okay with you, Shawn, I'm going to read an excerpt from that, and then I want
Please, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely, please.
So these are the words I said 4 years ago. I might have rewritten it if I had the opportunity, but it's pretty close. It is easy at times to turn Boromir into a mini-villain of sorts, the sometimes uncouth warrior, desperate to save his city, regardless of the cost to the rest of the free peoples. The son of an ambitious man whom we later learn has been corrupted by his use of the Palantir of Minas Tirith. The man described as proud, often rash by his brother, who loved him deeply and knew him best. And, of course, he did try to take the ring. But in Tolkien's world, it is rare indeed for a character not to be given an opportunity to repent, to acknowledge and renounce the wrong that he's done, and then seek to right it. From the very beginning, from Melkor and Sauron to Feanor and Gollum, every character has had a chance. In fact, I can't think of a single character who has not been presented with at least an implied opportunity to repent of their actions. And Boromir takes great advantage of his opportunity indeed. 20 at least lay there. A score of orcs, including some of the hulking Uruk-hai, lay dead at his hand. He has fought valiantly, trying to protect Merry and Pippin, sacrificing his life rather than running away and leaving the hobbits to be killed or captured. The problem is that it takes great humility to repent, to freely admit that what one has done is wrong. And then it takes great courage to sacrifice one's life for the lives of others. Boromir demonstrated both in large measure in that glade near Parthgalen. And what did it win him? Well, as Aragorn said, few have gained such a victory. But, and here I skip ahead, hope you guys don't mind, Gandalf says it even better in chapter 5 when he says, "Poor Boromir, I could not see what happened to him. It was a sore trial for such a man, a warrior and a lord of men. Galadriel told me that he was in peril, but he escaped in the end. I am glad. It was not in vain that the young hobbits came with us, if only for Boromir's sake." A victory? An escape? But he's dead. Winners don't die, right? How can you escape when you're pierced with arrows? This is Tolkien, remember. The victory is a moral victory, a victory that demonstrates that the ring did not in the end gain domination over Boromir. And the escape was an escape from peril, the peril of the ring to his very soul. Recall, if you will, that the gift of Iluvatar to men is to die indeed and leave the world. As Aragorn tells Arwen, we are not bound forever to the circles of the world, and beyond them is more than memory. Though we are told nothing of the afterlife of men directly, it's not an unreasonable assumption to believe that Boromir's repentance and sacrifice, both born of humility, are indeed a victory of the most eternal kind. Gandalf's words of escape certainly seem to imply as much.
Well done, my friend. Really well said.
Thank you, sir. I loved writing that. I want to go back and revisit it and flesh it out 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Fill it in more. But yeah.
Absolutely spot on. And I think, yes, it is absolutely a moral victory. And that I think is the primary way in which Aragorn means that. I have a fun little addendum to that, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I do think that is the primary meaning of that. And I think it is so significant.
It seems like it, because he certainly didn't accomplish what he set out to do. Merry and Pippin have been captured, so even that wasn't a win.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. There's one little thing that kind of comes in from Beowulf that's a little bit more of a Germanic angle to that, but Beowulf is also a Christian poem, and I think it fits squarely with what you said.
That's true.
I think that one thing that's really compelling to me about the idea of the victory over the ring, right? The peril of the ring to his very soul.
Yeah.
Not only does he have a chance to receive the gift of Iluvatar, I mean, that's exactly what the ring deprives you of, right? That's the ring's effect, is to keep you alive, to stretch you out, to deprive you of that gift. That's right. So in a very literal sense, triumphing over his lust for the ring has saved his soul and allowed him to embrace that gift. And it's pretty amazing.
That really is. Oh, absolutely.
So I do want to add a little shout out to Verlin Flieger, because she's always got great stuff when we start getting philosophical about Middle Earth.
Yeah, she does.
She's got an essay entitled Making Choices, and this appears in the book There Would Always Be a Fairy Tale. And in that, she talks about Boromir and the example he sets as being far beyond the simple fight between good and evil that some have pinned Lord of the Rings with.
Right.
She says, Boromir is neither consistently good nor immutably evil. He is a mixture of both. He is good when he rescues the hobbits from the snow and clears a way through the drifts for the Fellowship, acting on behalf of his fellows and using his strength to good purpose. But he is not consistently good. He is not only evil, he is criminal when he attempts to take the ring by force. He persuades himself that he has a good, that is to say moral, reason to save his country from destruction, and makes the conventional excuse that the end justifies the means. But he is not immutably evil, for he recognizes his error and tries to make amends. In this respect, Boromir, for all his ambiguity, is a fairly straightforward character. He knows what is right and what is wrong. He is tempted and falls into error, but repents, atones by defending the hobbits, and is absolved by Aragorn.
Yes, he is.
And that's probably the word, absolution, as opposed to forgiveness. Yeah.
Absolved. Yes, absolution. That is the word I was looking for. That's exactly the word.
Yep.
Yeah, because it wasn't like Aragorn was forgiving him for something he'd done as
Done
a
to
wrong against
Aragorn.
Aragorn.
Yeah, right.
But absolution, because Aragorn is in a position of authority to grant that absolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our research assistant Tanya found us this wonderful bit from the Journal of Tolkien Research, a piece called Few Have Gained Such a Victory by Kayla, and I'm going to mispronounce this name, probably it's Beebout, Beebout. I'm sure it's pronounced differently, but we'll leave it at that for now.
Sounds good.
Kayla, if you're listening, please let me know. We'll fix that in another episode. Now, I highly recommend the entire article, which is available online if you look it up. But here's a portion that's especially relevant to our talk of Boromir's redemption. When Aragorn finds Boromir dying, the captain confesses, "I tried to take the ring from Frodo. I am sorry, I have paid." Though the words are short and simple, they show that Boromir recognizes the evil of his actions and feels genuine remorse. An even greater point in his favor when we consider his pride. Those who are prideful find it difficult to state their faults, especially potential rivals. In this confession, Boromir accomplishes a mighty feat. To have been ensnared so deeply by the ring, and then to overcome its power, is unheard of through the whole of the ring's long history. Aragorn realizes this and says as much when he tells Boromir, "You have conquered, few have gained such a victory."
Wow.
That's a really great perspective, isn't it?
That is a really telling perspective. So
Yeah.
So there's a second way in which this is a victory. First,
Yeah.
he's managed to overcome his addiction, compulsion, whatever,
Right.
and embrace death. Two, he's managed to triumph over the ring. And then I've got a third, which does kind of tie in with the first one, which is going back to Beowulf. And I want to bring in another comment from Beowulf, the Monsters, and the Critics. Actually, it's not in the essay, it's in one of the footnotes, but it is Tolkien's own footnote.
Okay.
And it is in reference to the idea that, and this is very Germanic, the idea that Beowulf, just like Boromir, dies, but at least he takes his foes with him, dies with his boots on, so to speak.
Right.
And Tolkien says of Beowulf that the particular bearer of enmity, the dragon, also dies. So substitute orcs in the case of Boromir.
Yeah.
Is important chiefly to Beowulf himself. He was a great man. Not many, even in dying, can achieve the death of a single worm or the temporary salvation of their kindred. Within the limits of human life, Beowulf neither lived nor died in vain, brave men might say. But there is no hint, indeed there are many to the contrary, that it was a war to end war, or a dragon fight to end dragons.
Right.
And that reminds me of the idea of like the long defeat and the fact that every victory is temporary. And I think it's worth pointing out that just like Beowulf's victory is temporary, you know, he fights to kill one dragon. He's not ending all dragons. He's not saving the world.
No.
Boromir's kind of the same. He's killed 20 orcs. He's saved Merry and Pippin.
There's 1,000 more where that came from.
There's 1,000 more where that came from.
Right.
And Merry and Pippin are still captured. Something bad could still happen to them. It's a temporary victory, but that doesn't mean it's not a victory.
Yes.
He has died valiantly. You know,
That's
if this were a pagan Germanic poem, they'd say he was going to Valhalla, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
And that's why I say it ties back to what you were saying earlier about the gift of Iluvatar and the possibility of eternal reward for this. Because Beowulf, even though it is about pagan Germanics, it is a Christian poem.
Right.
And I think what you said about that fits very well with the idea here with Boromir's victory. I think
so.
I think it's absolutely all of those things. And yeah, it is a victory. It is an amazing victory. And I think few, even in Tolkien's writing, have gained such a victory. So
I agree.
Well done, Boromir. Thank you for your service.
Indeed. Well done, Boromir. Absolutely.
And hopefully I've sort of atoned for all the Boromir-bashing I did last season.
Oh, now you need
absolution. Because I really want to do that.
I understand. You're looking for
I need some absolution. Yeah.
I'm not in a position to grant that to you, Shawn. I'm sorry. I have no authority. No.
You don't want to anyway.
I like seeing you swing and twist in the wind a little bit.
Yep, I know you do. Well, let's get back to the text here, shall we?
Yeah.
So Boromir smiles. He is gone, but Aragorn, not knowing this, he continues to ask him, what about the hobbits?
Right, where'd they go? And Boromir, of course, isn't going to speak again. And then Aragorn is just overwhelmed with sorrow. And it's not just at the death of Boromir. I mean, obviously, he is sad about that. This is the heir of Denethor, the Lord of the Tower of the Guard. But the company is in ruin. I have failed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where he's really coming down pretty hard on himself, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, Gandalf shouldn't have trusted me. Oh. I mean, again, it's that doubt. It's a little bit of self-pity.
Yeah.
But I want to foreshadow something. This is a little bit more of that interlacing from Tom Shippey. This is from Road to Middle-earth. Shippy says, for of course Aragorn and the others, including Frodo, are in their feelings of confusion and meaninglessness absolutely wrong. Infatuated, bewildered, drowning in a bog of mere events, caught in a strangler's net of weird, that's W-Y-R-D, fate.
Yeah.
They have good apparent grounds for despair.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, as it happens, as chance or luck would have it, there are things in the web of story to refute those grounds.
That's right. Things aren't actually hopeless. They only look hopeless because of the interlacing. Things are in motion that Aragorn doesn't and can't know about.
That's right. You should try having a little Estelle.
Have a little me.
Have a little you, Aragorn.
Oh, man. That never gets old. Actually, it gets old, but we'll still do it.
It does
anyway,
get old.
folks.
It's totally gotten
It's
old.
already old, but that's okay.
That might be the last
time.
time we use it.
Oh, I doubt it.
Yeah, we're not going to promise that.
No.
So here he is. Okay, I got to make a decision.
Right.
What to do now.
Yeah.
Boromir wants me to go to Minas Tirith, and that's what I want to do. That's what my heart desires. But what about Frodo in the ring?
There's the quest still, right? How do I make sure the quest doesn't fail?
You know, the reason we came out here in the first place,
right.
And by the way, Boromir and Gandalf died.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, what did they die for if I'm just going to abandon the quest now?
Yeah, well, that is a good question. But before Gimli and Legolas come upon this sad sight, we wanted to remind you to visit our website, prancingponypodcast.com, as we've made some improvements recently.
We certainly have. We still have all the good stuff there, show notes and outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, as well as our online storefront, where you can get PPP shirts and mugs, stickers, and more.
Yeah, and one of the best resources we have is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have the library page, with links to every book we've mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, so thank you for your support. Now, we also wanted to tell you about another incredible project from Jordan Rennells, friend of the PPP and host of his own Music of Middle-earth podcast.
Not only is he now our audio engineer, but he's launched a new creative endeavor, Stroke of Simplicity. He's creating elegant line art that is both simple and simply stunning.
He's also available for commissioned pieces, too, including tattoo designs. So head over to jordanrennells.com/Stroke of Simplicity and take a look. That's JORDANRANNELLS.com/Stroke of Simplicity.
There you'll be able to purchase existing designs or submit a request for a custom piece, and you'll also find links to his music and to the Music of Middle-earth podcast.
So visit jordanrennells.com/Stroke of Simplicity for a look at some simply elegant line art. Now let's go ahead and get back to the glade as Legolas and Gimli arrive.
He knelt for a while, bent with weeping, still clasping Boromir's hand. So it was that Legolas and Gimli found him. They came from the western slopes of the hill, silently, creeping through the trees as if they were hunting. Gimli had his axe in hand and Legolas his long knife. All his arrows were spent. When they came into the glade, they halted in amazement, and then they stood a moment with heads bowed in grief, for it seemed to them plain what had happened. "Alas," said Legolas, coming to Aragorn's side, "we have hunted and slain many orcs in the woods, but we should have been of more use here. We came when we heard the horn, but too late it seems. I fear you have taken deadly hurt." "Boromir is dead," said Aragorn. "I am unscathed, for I was not here with him. He fell defending the hobbits while I was away up on the hill." "The hobbits!" cried Gimli. "Where are they, then? Where is Frodo?" "I do not know," answered Aragorn wearily. "Before he died, Boromir told me that the orcs had bound them. He did not think that they were dead. I sent him to follow Merry and Pippin, but I did not ask him if Frodo or Sam were with him, not until it was too late. All that I have done today has gone amiss. What is to be done now?" "First we must tend the fallen," said Legolas. "We cannot leave him lying like carrion among these foul orcs." "But we must be swift," said Gimli. "He would not wish us to linger. We must follow the orcs if there is hope that any of our company are living prisoners." "But we do not know whether the ring-bearer is with them or not," said Aragorn. "Are we to abandon him? Must we not seek him first? An evil choice is now before us."
Wow. Once again, he is stuck in that situation where he's got to make a call.
Yeah.
But he feels like everything he does, right? All that I've done today has gone amiss, and we'll get to that. But
well, and now he's got to make a call with no information, right?
yeah, that's
all
true.
he knows is that Merry and Pippin were taken by the orcs, but he has no idea about Frodo or Sam.
No, they may also have been taken, or they may have been killed.
They may also have been taken, or they may have been killed.
Or they may have gone away.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And if they've been killed, was the ring taken? Is the ring still on Frodo's body? I mean, all of this stuff is going through his mind right now. He has no idea.
So many things he just doesn't know.
How do you make a choice with no information?
That's true. Good information leads to good choices. That's true. So let's go back to the beginning of this passage. Legolas with the obvious. We've been out hunting orcs, but maybe it would have been better if we were here. You know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Boromir would still be alive. Boromir like, yeah, it would have been better if you were here. Oh.
Would have been nice if you were here yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Nice little wedding singer paraphrase. So Aragorn, of course, you know, I'm okay. I'm good, but this guy, he's dead. And Gimli's like, I'm sorry to interrupt your question, but the hobbits?
Right.
Yeah.
And Aragorn, I mean, he doesn't, again, like we were just saying, he doesn't know about Frodo or Sam. He tells him Merry and Pippin were captured.
Yeah. And then that line I mentioned earlier, but, you know, it's a fairly famous line. He's repeating what he said earlier. All that I have done today has gone amiss. And he literally does not know what to do at this point.
So that is basically 3 times that he said this or something similar, because he said, all that I do goes amiss. Then the second time he has this, I have failed. And now he's doing the gone amiss thing again. So 3 times he's made these comments about his own inadequacy as a leader, his own bad choices.
Yeah, this is for sure the peak of his doubt.
Yeah, it is. But we do know we need to tend to the fallen, right?
Right. We have some practical needs we need to address.
Yes, we can't leave him here. Who knows what the orcs will do to him?
Oh.
And then they'll debate their next choice. And there's this kind of humorous.
There really is.
Gimli says, let's go this way. Aragorn says, no, let's go that way. And Legolas says, let's just hold off. Let's not make a decision yet.
Right, exactly. And Gimli, of course, we got to do this quickly if we're going to take care of Boromir.
Right.
Because we need to follow the orcs. Or not, says Aragorn. Maybe we need to follow Frodo.
Maybe we need to follow Frodo.
Yeah. And then even though we don't read this, that's the humorous bit we get. Let's do this thing first.
Yes, seriously, let's do this first. We'll decide later.
Can we just decide about the orcs or Frodo later? Can we bury our friend?
Of course, the elf says, let's procrastinate, right? The elf says, we'll decide later.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Go not to the elves for counsel.
Don't ask him if we're going to follow the orcs or search for Frodo. He's going to tell you to bury Boromir.
Right. Now, I didn't read this, but, there's the question of, okay, what exactly are we going to do with the body? We can't bury him.
No, we can't. It's not practical.
We can't raise a mound, can't, build a cairn, basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's rocks by the river, but that's going to take way too much time.
Way too much time. So Aragorn comes up with the idea of laying him in a boat with his weapons and his foes' weapons and sending him over the falls. And I love that line, the river of Gondor will take care at least that no evil creature dishonors his bones, because they will be pulverized at the bottom of the falls.
Yeah, exactly. And in case the Germanic overtones of this scene had not hit you yet,
exactly,
we are now going to have a boat funeral.
Yeah. We're really lucky that they don't send it out and then light it on fire.
Light it on fire, I know, while somebody sings in Old English or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's true. I mean, boat burial or ship burial is something we see in all sorts of ancient sagas, including Beowulf, when shield shaving is sent out to sea in a boat laden with treasure and weapons.
At the very beginning of Beowulf, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that more next episode when we actually get to the funeral. But it's
we will.
Definitely a Germanic thing.
Very, very big Germanic thing. We'll talk a lot about that. Probably both in the episode and in the postscript, because there's so much information on it, and we don't want to spend 25 minutes talking about ship burial. But maybe we will.
We will have a lot of bones to dive into for the postscript, for sure.
We will. Literally and figuratively.
Oh, too soon.
That is too soon.
But for now, I'm going to let you get back to the text, because you're going to read the next bit about searching the orcs, aren't you?
I am. Quickly they searched the bodies of the orcs, gathering their swords and cloven helms and shields into a heap. "See," cried Aragorn, "here we find tokens." He picked out from the pile of grim weapons 2 knives, leaf-bladed, damasked in gold and red, and searching further he found also the sheaths, black, set with small red gems. "No orc tools these," he said. "They were borne by the hobbits. Doubtless the orcs despoiled them, but feared to keep the knives, knowing them for what they are, work of Westernesse, wound about with spells for the bane of Mordor. Well now, if they still live, our friends are weaponless. I will take these things, hoping against hope to give them back. And I, said Legolas, will take all the arrows that I can find, for my quiver is empty. He searched in the pile and on the ground about, and found not a few that were undamaged and longer in the shaft than such arrows as the orcs were accustomed to use. He looked at them closely. And Aragorn looked on the slain, and he said, Here lie many that are not folk of Mordor. Some are from the north, from the misty mountains, if I know anything of orcs and their kinds. And here are others strange to me. Their gear is not after the manner of orcs at all. There were 4 goblin soldiers of greater stature, swart, slant-eyed, with thick legs and large hands. They were armed with short, broad-bladed swords, not with the curved scimitars usual with orcs, and they had bows of yew, in length and shape like the bows of men. Upon their shields they bore a strange device, a small white hand in the center of a black field. On the front of their iron helms was set an S rune, wrought of some white metal. I have not seen these tokens before, said Aragorn. What do they mean? S is for Sauron, said Gimli. That is easy to read. Nay, said Legolas. Sauron does not use the elf runes. Neither does he use his right name, nor permit it to be spelt or spoken, said Aragorn. And he does not use white. The orcs in the service of Barad-dûr use the sign of the red eye. He stood for a moment in thought. S is for Saruman, I guess, he said at length. There is evil afoot in Isengard, and the west is no longer safe. It is as Gandalf feared. By some means the traitor Saruman has had news of our journey. It is likely, too, that he knows of Gandalf's fall. Pursuers from Moria may have escaped the vigilance of Lorien, or they may have avoided that land and come to Isengard by other paths. Orcs travel fast. Saruman has many ways of learning news. Do you remember the birds? Well, we have no time to ponder riddles, said Gimli. Let us bear Boromir away. But after that we must guess the riddles, if we are to choose our course rightly, answered Aragorn. Maybe there is no right choice, said Gimli.
Well, aren't you a ray of sunshine, son of Glowin?
Thanks a lot, Gimli.
So yeah, Aragorn finds the knives that were given to Merry and Pippin by Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
After the barrow, those damaged blades.
Yeah.
We probably have time for a brief sidebar on this, right?
I think we do. Real brief, yeah.
These are important blades, right? These are work of westernness.
These are very important to the story. Yeah.
Wound about with spells for the Bane of Mordor.
I love that. So we're going to take a look back and a look ahead at least a little bit at these swords. And I'm going to read a passage from Fog on the Barrow Downs. For each of the hobbits he chose a dagger, long, leaf-shaped and keen, of marvelous workmanship, damasked with serpent forms in red and gold. They gleamed as he drew them from their black sheaths, wrought of some strange metal, light and strong, and set with many fiery stones. Whether by some virtue in these sheaths, or because of the spell that lay on the mound, the blades seemed untouched by time, unrusted, sharp, glittering in the sun. Old knives are long enough as swords for hobbit people, he said. Sharp blades are good to have if shire folk go walking, east, south, or far away into dark and danger. Then he told them these blades were forged many long years ago by men of westernness.
That's right. Now, at the time, we weren't really sure who those were, but we have learned quite a bit since then.
Mm-hmm.
And from the Marquette manuscripts that make up the hunt for the ring, we learn, but above all, the timid and terrified bearer had resisted him, had dared to strike at him with an enchanted sword made by his own enemies long ago for his destruction. And of course, I'm speaking of the Witch King there.
Yeah.
Narrowly it had missed him. How he had come by it, save in the barrows of Cardolan. Then he was in some way mightier than the Barrow-wight, and he called on Elbereth, a name of terror to the Nazgul. He was then in league with the high elves of the Havens. Escaping a wound that would have been as deadly to him as the Mordor knife to Frodo, as was proved at the end, he withdrew and hid for a while, out of doubt and fear both of Aragorn and especially of Frodo.
I love that.
Wow, you got some juice there, Baggins. Yeah.
I remember when we found that passage. Woo, man! He's more afraid of Frodo than he is of Aragorn because the mention of Elbereth, the fact that he has that blade, which means he must have defeated the Barrow-wight, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. You've defeated my giant, so you obviously have...
Yeah. And you've defeated my Barrow-wight, which means you must be more powerful than him.
Right, and you called on Elbereth, so
yeah,
just a great passage, and I love...
Which means you must have studied.
Yeah, that's right. Which means man is mortal.
Right.
All right.
There's always time for a Vizzini reference.
That's right. Always time. And we did not take long to get a Princess Bride reference in, did we?
Never go in against a couple of Sicilians when a Princess Bride reference is on the line.
Well played, sir. Well, I'm going to go ahead and read one more passage, and this is from the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, and I'm reading this now in case I don't get to read it then, after the death of the Witch King. And behold, there lay his weapon, but the blade was smoking like a dry branch that has been thrust in a fire. And as he watched it, it writhed and withered and was consumed. So passed the sword of the Barrow Downs, work of Westernesse. But glad would he have been to know its fate, who wrought it slowly long ago in the North Kingdom, when the Dunedain were young, and chief among their foes was the dread realm of Angmar and its sorcerer king. No other blade, not though mightier hands had wielded it, would have dealt that foe a wound so bitter, cleaving the undead flesh, breaking the spell that knit his unseen sinews to his will. Whoa!
Man.
Oh, I can't wait to get there.
You know I love that moment.
Yeah, I know you do.
And you're right, that might be the last time you get a chance to read from it.
Yeah. We're going to be drawing straws or flipping coins or doing something.
Or, I don't know, duking it out, something.
Maybe.
We'll have to figure it out.
It may be like Alan and Shawn deathmatch to figure out who reads I Am No Man, you know?
Well,
I can hear you now going, there's no debate on that. I'm reading it.
Yeah, you can have Theoden's death. I'll take the
all right, deal.
Gonfeld Dwemerlake, Lord of Carrion. Oh, yes.
Yeah, all right. Done and done.
All right. Anyway, yeah, these blades are meant for great things. And
yes, they are.
And some of them are going to achieve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a little bit of a eucatastrophe, isn't it, that Aragorn finds them here?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, yeah, Legolas is also picking up weapons. He's taking some arrows because his quiver's empty.
Very practical, yeah. And as he's doing that, Aragorn observes that some of these orcs are not from Mordor. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's right. Yeah, some are from the Misty Mountains. If Aragorn knows orcs and their kinds, which
presumably he does. Right.
Presumably he does, yeah.
And I don't think we have time right now, but we will discuss kinds of orcs at another time. Probably a couple of chapters from now.
Yeah, probably in a couple of chapters.
Yeah. So he observes the truly strange orcs. They're physically different, right? They're larger, they're darker, they have different eyes, thick legs, and large hands.
Yeah, and we get some of those words that we've talked about before that are admittedly a bit uncomfortable, talking about them being swart and slant-eyed.
Yeah.
We have talked about some of that before. Tolkien used the language of his time, and this is the way he describes the orcs. Lots of great conversation on this at Oxenmoot, I have to say.
Lots.
It's something that we're going to acknowledge. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because I think it kind of speaks for itself in terms of how problematic it is in a way. But, it's
and
there.
We'll be touching on it, when we are looking to do an episode addressing this stuff later this season, just as we did episode 114, was it, when we talked about this in the first place?
Yeah, we previously covered some of this kind of like racially coded content from the perspective of, us and being people who know Tolkien's own words, Tolkien's own intentions and things like that. And that was important. But there's more to the story than that. And we'd like to go ahead and revisit this topic from the perspective of how readers receive it. How do readers respond to this? So you can look for that later this season.
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah.
But they also have different weapons too, don't they?
Yeah, I noticed that too. They have short swords instead of what the text says is the usual curved scimitars. And I know we've talked about that before as well. And then they have bows that are as big as men's bows. Big bows of yew wood. Oh.
Mm-hmm. These are big orcs. These are big, strong orcs.
Yeah. To be able to pull a man-sized bow back.
Right. Well, like Lurtz, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've got different markings, right? Different devices. Small white hand on a black field with an S rune on the helm, and they're all thinking, well, wait, what does this mean? We haven't seen this device before.
No. And Gimli, of course, goes for the obvious answer. S must be for Sauron, because it's probably not for Superman. And Legolas is like, Sauron doesn't even use that alphabet. And Aragorn, Sauron doesn't even let people say his name or write it.
That's true. But can we talk about Sauron doesn't use that alphabet?
Yeah.
Do we let's assume that this means the Kirth, the runes? Yeah. Because we know Sauron uses the Tengwar, right?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, the ring is covered with Tengwar. So we know Sauron uses that elf alphabet. So I guess he means the Kirth? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's a rune, so
it probably is the Kirth.
It's the Kirth.
And that is what you would normally use on metal, right? You'd use runes instead of...
Like you're carving into stone or carving into metal.
Yeah. Unless you're making a ring in a magical volcano, in which case it's no problem to put Tengwar in. But I do like Aragorn's call out that Sauron doesn't let people use his name, because remember, we talked about this some time ago. He doesn't like being called Sauron, because that's not a friendly thing to call somebody. He means the abhorred one. He likes to be called...
Hello, abhorred one. No, he likes to be called what? What?
Tar Myron.
That's right. King Excellent.
King
Excellent, man.
King Excellent.
With my Chief Nazgul, Bill, and my other Chief Nazgul, Ted.
Exactly, yeah. Right.
Oh, man.
But more importantly, he does not use white.
No.
And also more importantly, if these were Sauron's orcs, they would have the sign of the red eye. And I think Aragorn would know.
He's probably killed enough of them to know.
I think he probably has.
I love this, though. He knows Sauron's fashion sense.
I don't know if he's killed 20 at a time.
No, probably not. I mean, he's a ranger, so he's probably more skilled at, taking him off from a distance. But I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Is he that kind of ranger?
Is he that kind of ranger? I don't know.
Does he ever use a bow?
That's a good question. I was thinking more like a trapper. Picking them off from a distance using, tripwire traps. And
that makes sense, yeah. And especially when you walk around with a broken sword. I mean...
Yeah, exactly. You can't exactly win in close combat with the hilt.
Right.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Aragorn's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
He figures Steve isn't strong enough to have an army, and Scott doesn't have any orcs in his army, so it must be Saruman.
And this isn't one of the evil Superman movies, so it's not him.
No, you're right. And Spider-Man, that's the wrong universe. Right. So Aragorn concludes, pretty logically, must be Saruman. Yeah.
Yeah, so the West is no longer safe.
No.
The traitor Saruman must know all about our journey and Gandalf's fall. And I love this comment about how Saruman has many ways of learning news. Do you remember the birds?
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of The Ring Goes South. Remember, we talked about the Crebine back in episode 151. At the time, we weren't entirely clear whether those birds were sent by Sauron or Saruman.
Right.
But we pointed out that when Tolkien wrote that chapter originally, he hadn't come up with Saruman yet.
No.
So at the time, he might have been thinking of Sauron. We weren't quite prepared to commit to that, but we just kind of pointed it out. I think Hammond and Skull said that even Tolkien probably wasn't sure.
Not at that point, right.
But at this point, it's pretty clear that the Crebine were sent from Saruman.
Yeah. And then we get this last interchange. We kind of made fun of it, but I don't want us to gloss over it between Gimli and Aragorn. Gimli's, pretty clear. We don't have time to deal with the riddles right now. We got to get moving and get Boromir taken care of. And Aragorn's like, look, we've got to ponder these riddles if we're going to make the right choice. We talked about this earlier. Good decisions require good data. No data is going to lead to a very bad decision. But Gimli takes sort of a fatalistic approach here, doesn't he? And it really, I think, echoes Aragorn's complaint about fate in the first place, right? Maybe there is no right choice.
Yeah.
You said everything you do is going to miss. Maybe it doesn't matter what we choose.
And Gimli's saying maybe there is no right choice. Yeah.
Ah, man, that's dark.
This is kind of dark. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it's kind of a blink and you miss it moment, really.
It really is. It really is. I mean, it's almost under his breath. You can almost hear him saying it. I mean, it doesn't say it's
kind of like griping
breath,
under his breath a little bit, like maybe there is no right choice.
There is no right choice. All right. I'm going to have you pick up right there, kind of the preparations for Boromir's funeral.
All right. And this will be our last reading of the episode.
That's true.
Taking his axe, the dwarf now cut several branches. These they lashed together with bowstrings and spread their cloaks upon the frame. Upon this rough bier they carried the body of their companion to the shore, together with such trophies of his last battle as they chose to send forth with him. It was only a short way, yet they found it no easy task, for Boromir was a man both tall and strong. At the waterside Aragorn remained, watching the bier, while Legolas and Gimli hastened back on foot to Parthgalen.
Somebody's got to watch the beer. Sorry.
Watch my beer. I got to carry this body.
Hold my beer.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to ruin the
No, it's
moment.
all right. I'm glad you did, because I'm trying to think of what's the right beer joke for this. You nailed
it. Well, they put a deposit on the keg, and if somebody doesn't watch the beer, the keg's going to go away, and where are they going to get their $50, man?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you got to watch it. All right.
Sorry, not sorry, but yeah.
It was a mile or more, and it was some time before they came back, paddling 2 boats swiftly along the shore. "There is a strange tale to tell," said Legolas. "There are only 2 boats upon the bank. We could find no trace of the other."
"Have orcs been there?"
asked Aragorn.
"We saw no signs of them,"
answered Gimli.
"And orcs would have taken or destroyed all the boats, and the baggage as well."
"I will look at the ground when we come there," said Aragorn. That's what you want. You want the ranger to do the ranger thing.
Yeah, you definitely want that kind of ranger. And fortunately, we will get that kind of ranger.
Absolutely.
First, we get Gimli cutting the branches, and then the 3 of them lash together with the bowstrings. They lash the branches together to make a bier.
Yeah, and they carry Boromir to the shore, along with some trophies of the battle, probably some tokens, that they
weapons
can find on the orcs, weapons and
right
belt buckles and eyeglasses, whatever. I don't know.
Monocles.
Top hats. Steampunk goggles. I don't know.
Steampunk goggles. I love it. There you go. Oh, man.
And it's no small feat, right?
No.
Because carrying Boromir, I mean, we talked before about how he's like a sword and board guy. He's a burly fighter type.
He is a burly fighter type. And we've got some actual concrete information on this. I think we talked about this probably in the chapter when they were coming down Caradhras, right? And we were talking about, how he was parting the snow and doing all this. We talked about his height and his build. So in a 1969 note that Hammond and Skull cite in the Reader's Companion, this is not in print anywhere else. It's in the Bodleian collection. That note, Tolkien himself says that Boromir was about 6'4" tall. Now, so he's already tall. He's described in the text as being broader and heavier in build than Aragorn. Yeah, so he is a big boy. Given his apparent physical strength, I honestly can't imagine him weighing any less than 250, 260 pounds. I mean, that's 113, 118 kilos. He's a big boy. And it might be more than that. 6'4", 250. Okay, NFL wide receivers that are the 6'4" range are probably going to be more like 220 to 240.
I knew the football.
You knew that was coming.
I knew it was coming. Yeah.
I mean, 6'4" is too tall to be a linebacker. He's got to be a defensive end if he's playing, but he might be not quite heavy enough. I don't know. Maybe he's a speed rusher. But here's the point. He's a big dude, probably 250 to 260, which is 113 to 118 kilos.
Right.
Now they've added the trophies of his last battle, too. So they're probably carrying 300 pounds.
But he's armored, too.
Oh, my goodness. You're right. They're not
yeah, I mean, he's got weapons, he's got gear.
They're not carrying 300 pounds. They're probably carrying 350 pounds.
Probably.
So what is that? I mean, at 300 pounds is 140 kilograms. So 350's got to be about 165, 170 kilos. There's a lot.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
This is a hard load for the 3 of them to carry. I mean, without a doubt, this is and poor Gimli is probably like having to hold it over his head just to hold it at the same height as Legolas and Aragorn. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a tough load.
Yeah.
So that was a heavy load to carry.
Mm-hmm.
And then Aragorn waits at the river's edge while Legolas and Gimli go get the boats from Parskala.
He's just catching his breath.
Yeah, right. I'm surprised Legolas and Gimli don't have to. I guess Legolas has that elf constitution.
Right. And Gimli, of course, can bear heavy loads all day long, right? He's a dwarf.
Right.
But Aragorn doesn't just wait. I noticed this. He watches the beer. Well, I know we made the joke, and it was a bad joke, but you'll forgive us that. Hammond and Skull in the Reader's Companion cite an article from Mythlore 19 by somebody named Patricia Reynolds. The article's called Funeral Customs in Tolkien's Fiction, and this is great. She says there, we can note Aragorn's watch over Boromir's body. The 3 words used for the activity of sitting by the body on the night before burial in English are watch, wake, and vigil. Sitting by the dead person's body on the eve of the funeral is a practice found in many cultures, and it is Aragorn, the most noble of the company, who undertakes to watch Boromir's body.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah.
I love that. It really is a nice little follow-up to the closing words that he had with Boromir, and be at peace, and yes, I absolve you. And keep in mind, Boromir is a subject of his, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is the king, even if he's the king in exile. Boromir is his subject. He's going to feel like I'm responsible in some way.
Absolutely,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. This isn't just a practical matter. This is kind of a ritual act.
Yes, it is.
And this is a token of respect. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I have to wonder if, we're going to get to this next week. I wonder if this is when he started writing in his head the song that we're going to see next week. We always get that question about spontaneous poetry.
How in the world did they come up with this beautiful spontaneous song? Yeah.
And we'll talk about that at length next week because that's what we do. But I have to think that this is a time where he starts to phrase those things.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that more next week. Yeah.
Well, Legolas and Gimli each return. They're each paddling a boat.
Yeah. And of course, Legolas says, look, there were only 2 boats there. The third one is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there don't appear to be any orcs there. There was no sign of orcs, and all the stuff was there. Orcs would have plundered it.
Yeah, the baggage would be at least torn to shreds, if not gone altogether. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Aragorn says, all right, I'll do the ranger thing. I'll check it out when we get over there.
Absolutely. Now, orcs would have taken our baggage too, but fortunately not Barlaman's bag. So we'll be pulling a couple of questions from it.
Well done. Well done.
These are so much fun to write. They really are. But even when that's done, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our fantastic listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
We also have some great discussions going on over on Reddit. You can find us there at r/Prancing Pony Pod.
And follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us and consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you want exclusive content, postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Shawn and me, and episodes without the digitally inserted ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's see what messages Barlaman has brought us. Shawn?
All right, well, our first question tonight comes from us from Father David K. in Rhode Island. Father David asks us, if, following his temptation for the ring, Boromir had encountered Frodo again, would he have now been master of himself? Or would he have been right back in his lust for the ring? Well, that's a fun question to speculate on, now that he's gone. Alan, you want to start?
Well, yeah, now that he's gone, he can't defend himself. No.
Yep.
I'm assuming that in this question, Boromir is also very much alive and not pierced with many orc arrows.
I'm thinking so, yeah.
Because otherwise, I have to assume that zombie Boromir would be more concerned about Frodo's brains rather than the ring. But assuming he's alive, it's a really good question. My first hunch was that he would be master of himself. His sorrow at the end of the last book, his repentance in this one seemed deeply genuine. But as we go through the moment of his passing, and I know this is going to sound weird, I'm not entirely sure about it. In my mind, much of what completes Boromir's redemption is his sacrifice for Merry and Pippin. Until he became willing to lay down his life to protect them, until he performed acts in accordance with his repentance, I'm not 100% sure he would have been fully master of himself. I mean, okay, maybe if he'd survived, right? He'd been shot and somehow, I'm not dead yet, and they healed him, then yeah. But assuming that he didn't fight this fight and get killed, I don't know. I think it's really only after the confession, apology, and penance that he's strong enough to fully survive the assault of the ring. I'd love to be wrong, but that's kind of where I land. What about you, Shawn?
I'm going to shock everybody and agree with you. I think it's...
Come on. All right.
I mean, there's a lot of ifs here because it's a fairly open-ended question that Father David has sent us. But I think, if we just kind of take things at face value and just assume everything goes the same way except he doesn't die,
right?
Then I think you're right, because I think it's really the confession and the apology and the penance, sort of the way you broke it down. I think it's all that, and the death, frankly, that purifies his soul, so to speak.
Yeah.
If you think back to the idea of, what we talked about with the Beowulf essay, that death is the wages of heroism.
Oh, what a line.
I think this death is what makes him a hero. And I think without that death, I don't think he would have that closure with regards to the ring. I think it would still have some hold on him.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being even a little bit more conservative than you are, because I think you said maybe if he confessed and then still lived, maybe he would be okay. I don't know. I think the death is kind of like the last act of that
Yeah.
penance. So
He certainly had to at the very least, I think, get to the point where he was willing to die, where he understood that his life
that's an
was
interesting
forfeit.
point. Yeah.
Right? Like he knew.
And that might be a save
know.
for him if he's willing to die and just somehow manages to be
Right.
saved at the last
To
moment.
be only mostly dead.
Yeah.
He just needs to eat that really big pill covered with chocolate. Why the
Right.
chocolate? It just makes it go down easier.
Right, exactly. Miracle Max. Yeah, I mean, I think if he survives,
I'm sorry. I'm picturing Boromir like totally limp, like Dread Pirate Roberts, like Wesley, completely like all his limbs just like loosey goosey, being carried by Aragorn,
flopping all around. Yeah.
But if only I had a Holocaust cloak.
Right. Gimli pulls one out.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I think without his death, I just think he would lose that closure, and I think that the ring would still potentially have some hold over him. I think if he were to survive, I think he would have to have another moment.
Yeah.
Kind of like an Aragorn or Galadriel or Faramir moment, a chance to be tempted and to actually succeed at resisting the temptation.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different moment.
You're right. That's not part of the question, is it? No.
Right, exactly. And I think that's one too many assumptions to make.
Yeah.
If Boromir has a temptation moment later, that's a whole new struggle, and we can't give him partial credit. I think based on what we see in the book, if all things were equal except he survives, I don't think he's free of the ring until that final moment.
You're right. I think you're probably right. Yeah.
Good question, though. Thank you very much for that, David.
Oh, great question. A lot of fun to speculate on. Yeah.
Well, Alan, do we have time for one more?
I think we do. We got a question from Michelle R. that honestly is right up your alley, Shawn. You're going to love this. And here she asks, did Tolkien intentionally avoid using the letter J when he named things? Surely there's something, but except for jewels and the briefly mentioned Jolly Cotton, I can't think of a major named thing or place that begins with J. I thought, well, perhaps his languages are derivative of old languages before J existed, and at that point I fell asleep and knew no more. Michelle's very clever in her question. Knew no more. I love it. She continues, likely nothing begins with X, but that's somehow more reasonable. I'm sure someone's penned an answer for this, and you two are more deeply read than I in the scholarly texts. Wow, we've got her fooled. Can you point me in a direction, she asks, or have you already found me wrong and have something like, you're forgetting Jeffinway, son of Finway, or Old Man's Willow's given name was Jack.
Who could forget Jeffinway?
Jeffinway. Oh, man, I love it.
The fourth son of Finway. Yeah, he was. He was even less respected by Feanor than the other two brothers. That's an interesting question, Michelle. I mean, okay. I do think it's safe to say that Tolkien didn't have some kind of personal vendetta against the letter J.
Well,
it's not like, I hate this letter so much.
It's his
It's
name.
his first initial.
Yeah.
So, yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien probably did not hate the letter J any more than I hate the letter S.
Right.
And Michelle doesn't say he does. I just want to put that out there.
No.
Now, Michelle gives the examples of jewels and jolly. Those are both English words.
Right.
Not invented words. And it is true that J's appear to be in very short supply in any of the names Tolkien gives in his invented languages, which, of course, are what most of the things he names are given names in his invented languages.
Right.
And, of course, by that I mean primarily the Elvish languages.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure if Michelle is joking when she raises the idea that Tolkien might be working from old languages before J existed or not.
Well, she was very tired.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. She fell asleep and knew no more.
Yeah.
In reality, the idea of a time before the letter J is actually a thing. J is actually a very recent addition to the Roman alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't actually its own letter until the year 1524.
Wow, that was just like 3 weeks ago.
Feels like that sometimes.
It feels like
3
that,
weeks
yes.
feels like 500 years.
Yeah.
Before that year, J was just another way of writing I. It was just an I with a little flourish on it. And the letter I was used for both the vowel sounds we use I for today and also the consonant sounds we now use J for.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, that letter did double duty, kind of like the way Y can be both a consonant and a vowel. I was just
thinking the consonant sounds that we use J for, which, like the J, jump.
Yeah, it wasn't just the Y sound like that you might see in like Latin or something. Yeah,
Right,
it was used for that English J sound. Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay.
So from that perspective, yeah, in a sense, Tolkien was primarily interested in languages that existed before J was a thing. But I don't think that's the answer, because the sounds associated with J, like the J sound,
Uh-huh.
those sounds actually existed in English long before the letter itself did. Even in Old English, the sound J, as in jump, existed. It was just spelled differently. It was spelled with a CG. So, for example, we've been talking about Beowulf a lot this episode. Look at the name of Beowulf's father, Ecgtheow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Ecgtheow. That CG is a J sound.
Yeah.
And even today, we use the letters DGE to spell that same sound at the end of words. So you think of words like judge or edge, which comes from that same CG. So even though we use J at the beginning of words, that same sound appears spelled totally different at the ends of words. And so that sound has been in English for a very long time.
Huh. And of course, that's not counting other sounds that J can make in words that come from other languages, like the Y sound, right? I live in a city called Aliso Viejo, which is the H sound, Viejo, but it's also the Y sound in several languages.
Like in Latin, Jupiter, things like that, the Latin name of Jupiter, yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, of course, Tolkien used those sounds a lot in naming things. He just didn't use J to make those sounds, because we don't tend to use J for those sounds in English unless the word comes from another language.
Right. I think the real issue is that Tolkien just didn't use that English J sound, that J sound.
Yeah.
He didn't use it in his Elvish languages.
No.
It's not just J that's missing, though. So, going to get really word nerdy on you here.
Oh, yeah, that's what we pay you for.
That J sound in English is called, by linguists, the voiced palato-alveolar sibilant affricate.
Well, it ain't called that by anybody else.
It ain't called that by me on a normal
heavens. Day. No. I say it's that just sound.
Yeah. The voiced palato-alveolar sibilant affricate.
If you say so.
And I'm only saying that because it's part of a group of consonant sounds that are called the palato-alveolar consonants because they're made with the tongue. It's a reference to where the tongue is in the mouth when you make the sound. So when you make those sounds, your tongue is bunched up in your mouth by the palate behind the alveolar ridge. And if you don't know where the alveolar ridge is, ask your dentist.
I can feel it when I make that, if I put my tongue there to make the J sound.
Yeah, you can. Ch.
Yeah, there's a ridge there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
So say it. Say the word jump and think of where your tongue is.
Yeah.
And then say some of the other sounds in the same group. So there's the CH sound in church, which is the same as J, just without voice.
Right.
Or the SH sound in shirt. Or Shawn. Or what Tolkien calls a ZH sound, which is basically a voiced SH. And you see that we don't usually spell it ZH in English, but you get words like azure or vision.
Vision, yeah. That's a good example of it. Same place in the mouth.
Exactly. Same place in the mouth. All of those sounds are part of the same class. And believe it or not, none of those sounds appears in Tolkien's Elvish languages.
That's interesting because, of course, CH does exist in Elvish, but with a different sound. It doesn't sound like the CH in church. It's the voiceless velar fricative in Carcharoth.
Yes, that's exactly right. And thank you for pronouncing Carcharoth because I can never get it right. Yeah, so that sound, the CH sound, the church sound, or the jump sound, those sounds do not appear in Tolkien's Elvish languages. Some of those sounds do appear in some of Tolkien's other languages. He does say in Appendix E that the CH sound, the J sound, and the SH sound appeared in Westron. Mm-hmm. And we know this because he says that they actually used Series 3 of the Tengwar to represent those sounds. So take a look in Appendix E for that.
Right.
But he also says that those Tengwar had different sounds in Quenya because Quenya didn't use those sounds.
Oh, of course.
Also, all four of those palato-alveolar consonants appear to be in Kuzdul because there are Kirth representing all four of them that Tolkien says were most probably inventions of the Noldor of Eregion, since they were used for the representation of sounds not found in Sindarin.
Not found in Sindarin. There you go.
Yep. And there's a lot more on all of that in Appendix E, which I won't go further into. But yeah.
Wow.
Now, unfortunately, we don't really get any examples of any of these sounds in the Kuzdul corpus that Tolkien wrote.
Right.
We do see the SH. That's the one exception. We do see the SH in words like Bundushatur.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can certainly see that the group of consonants is there.
You mean the palato-alveolar consonants?
That's the ones, yeah.
Wow.
So I think the answer to Michelle's question is just that the overwhelming majority of Tolkien's names come from Elvish words. And for whatever reason, just some wild hair he got as a language creator, he decided not to give those sounds to Elvish languages.
Wow. And I think we have the title of this episode. It's going to be called Voiced Palato-Alveolar Sibilant Affricate. No, I'm kidding. Absolutely not.
Yes. We want our listeners to not be able to pronounce the name of the episode.
We want our listeners to
Or our
stop
hosts.
subscribing to the podcast, apparently.
Yeah. Yes, in this episode, Shawn is going to speak for an hour and 40 minutes about the voiced palato-alveolar sibilant affricate.
Not if his co-host has anything to say about it.
And, well, he should say something about it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, folks, thankfully, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Please.
Hey, I just answer the questions, man. I don't write the questions.
I know. But please, folks, be sure to join us again next week when Legolas and Aragorn sing.
But we don't.
That's right.
Yes, well, apparently Gimli heard us when we said,
There'll be no singing here.
Of course he did.
Now, we want to take a moment to thank all of our patrons at the Cure contributions here. That's James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, and Brian in the UK. Thank you all so much for your support.
So much. And we also want to thank the team that helps make this show better. Research assistants Tanya Pleshkova and Marilyn R. Pakila, along with our barlowman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil D.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates.
That's right.
So thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Now be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, the emblems you'd put on the helms of your orcs to Barlaman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Well, I can tell you it's not going to be an SH for my first consonant of my name because there's not one in Elvish. So,
but it's a
man.
Kirth, so you might
That's
be
true.
able to.
That's true. I guess I might be able to do that. I could use the Dwarvish Kirth. See, you know this stuff. You're good at this.
Well, no, I just listened to you.
Well, folks, Barlaman is a lot more reliable these days, but we do get a lot of mail, so
True.
be patient. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, folks, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.